Oklahoma theater geeks, hit record and explore their new addiction to 5e Dungeons & Dragons.
This podcast features live play as well as episodes taking you behind the curtain as the Dungeon Master and players discover more about the world's greatest role-playing game.
The D20 to Curtain podcast is not just live play, but a unique D&D experience, bringing creators and community together to elevate each other's games and make each RPG session a critical hit.
So are you ready? Let's bring up the curtain because...
It's the cast of D20 Curtain this week on the Dungeon Master's Dojo.
Support the Dungeon Master's Dojo by heading over to Apple Podcasts and Podchaser and leave a review. Take the time to leave a comment as well. This helps make us more searchable to those listeners interested in content such as ours. But more importantly, we want to know how we are doing and what topics you would like to hear about.
Another way you can support the DMD is by buying the DMD a beer, so we can continue to deliver quality content to you, our listeners. This also helps us upgrade and replace equipment. Head over to buymeacoffee.com/the-DMD and buy us a beer, or 3, or 5. Don't forget to say something nice or mean. We don't care. You're buying us a beer. Now on to this week's episode.
Hello, and welcome to another episode of the Dungeon Master's Dojo podcast. This is a show for game masters and players alike. We hope to bring you tips and tricks to elevate your game and develop the art of dungeon mastery. I'm your host, Louis Aponte, and these are your dungeon masters, Scott Labby and Bill Robotile. Let's enter the dojo and see what they have in store for us today. Hey, Bill. Hey, Scott.
Hey, Lou.
And
Hello.
I'd like to welcome the cast of the D20 to Curtain.
Hey, how are you?
Hello.
Awesome. Thanks for coming.
I'm really looking forward to this, guys.
I'm living for that sweet mandolin and that thing.
Wow.
Is that a man?
Jamming out.
Well, before we get started, I like to play a little clip, and I'd like to hear what your thoughts are when this whole scenario happened. I think this is one of my favorite episodes, and I'm going to play this little clip, and once it's done, you can tell me what went through your guys' mind as this was happening.
Great icebreaker.
Yep.
As you walk to the door, approaching it with Lapis in front of you.
I'm going to look to the person who unlocked it and say, "Back off, she's dangerous."
And he steps back.
I'm going to shoot my head up, gasp at his performance.
You gasp at his performance.
I mean, like, I'm going to just, I'm kind of watching. Yeah, I kind of gasp.
No, you said you
I gasp.
gasped.
I
at his
gasp. I
performance,
do.
is what you said. So one of the cultist gasp at the prisoner.
I was just joking. I was just kidding. It was like a joke.
You just now figured out that was a bad idea. Is what you did. I'm gonna say that when you gasp out loud, Langdedrosa looks at you. What's your problem?
I don't say anything. I just keep my head down.
Oh my God.
Langdedrosa moves one of his henchmen out of the way and steps towards you. What's your problem?
I'm just really excited about what's going to happen to her.
A deception check.
It's in your wheelhouse.
I know.
Girl, come on, girl.
Oh, you get me killed.
17.
Don't get me killed.
He looks at you. I'm excited too.
I will say that's probably one of my favorite episodes because of what happened right then and there.
Karen you're never going to live that down.
No.
I'm not expecting that, and
Never living that down.
I was like texting my daughter. I was like, please bring me wine.
The funny part is we recorded just the week before. We were talking about play styles and stuff. And one of the styles I've used for decades is if you say at the table, your character did it, unless you otherwise say out of character or use some kind of sign or something like that. And I don't know how many times I've caught players. Well, I'm just going to walk up and slap the sheriff. Oh, I was just kidding. Oh no. And they're like, oh, he did it again. So he's like, you got to hear this. You've got to hear this. I in particular, about how things go at the table. And when I heard that, I went, oh, that is so beautiful. I love it.
and I wept for you because I feel your pain.
Oh, he's been caught in that trap a bunch of times.
Yeah. I got instantly, after being so bold and cocky, quite quiet. Sit there.
But I will say, Jerome handled that with expertise, I'll just say. Yeah. That was very much so. I was like, that was a good way to handle it.
And know what's funny? I think I had just heard your episode where you talked about it prior to that moment. So I kind of went, hey, wait a minute. There's one of those places. I'm doing it. We're going for it.
I'm usually the bad example, so I'm kind of used to that. Don't do what Gara does.
But it was, like I said, that was probably one of my most memorable episodes because of that. And I thank you for it.
Yeah, I love that.
That's beautiful.
I think it's one of those cool things about the table is that even something like that, which is kind of a mistake, I guess, if you want to label it some way, but it makes the game better. That screw up actually improved the game and improved the storytelling, and that's what you want to be there for and present for, and hopefully you're mindful enough to catch it when it happens and not make a mistake and say, oh, no, we'll just scrap that. No, keep it. It's lovely.
Yeah,
it was.
I offer plenty screw-up moments, so there you go. That's my...
We call it the chaos factor.
Yeah.
The wild card.
That's our Lou.
But chaos with a K,
Oh, there you go.
Chaos factor. I like that, Timmy. I'm keeping that one.
So let's start with a plug. You can find them on the web over at d20thecurtain.com. You can find their podcast over on Amazon Music, Apple Podcasts, and Podchaser. And definitely they're well worth a listen. If you're heading over to Podchaser to listen, leave a review. If those platforms aren't your scene, then head over to YouTube. D20 The Curtain is there too. All the links for the above will be in the episode description.
Definitely check these guys out. They are awesome.
They are. Like I said, they had my attention from day one. And I am upset that I have to wait until next week, the 18th, when this is released.
They are, and you guys are my preference over Critical Role.
That's a huge compliment.
Honor.
I've since broken up with Matt Mercer and crew, and I'm in Jerome Stevenson and the cast of D20 The Curtain's corner now because you were my preference.
And
I wanna say
you
sorry
guys,
to them,
you guys
but I
are
don't.
we use you guys as our benchmark for how we sound. At least we try.
We try, yeah.
We try.
Wow.
That's, gosh.
Great.
Some of the credit there has to go to Jerome and his hard work because
Definitely.
some of us are loud, some of us are not, and I know that it's a lot of his hard work at the editing at table.
Yeah.
Yes.
He does all the work. We just kind of show up and wing it. And he's like, I prepared and studied and wrote notes.
And I'm like, I'm just going to show up and stab people.
I'm like, I brought food.
We tried the same thing. Then Lou makes us work.
Yeah, he's mean.
He's a taskmaster. He's horrible.
Somebody's got to do it.
Yeah, true, because we do need it.
I will say also as a DM, he does a great job of like out of game posing questions that it makes it, at least for me, it makes me think, they're thought provoking. They kind of help me direct where I want to go and things that I don't always think about or sees things that I don't always see. So I appreciate that.
And for me, I'm a new player. This is like my first time playing, and Jerome kind of let me
come in and figure things out, but I couldn't have done that without his guidance. I mean, we had a lot of character discussions and what do we see and what do we think and how can we find this fully formed humanoid type person, and he is what really brought his enthusiasm is what brought me to the table to begin with.
You guys don't sound inexperienced,
No,
though. When I listen to your podcast,
I'm the only one that's inexperienced. Everybody else has played before.
Well, no.
Well,
I mean, we've only been playing for a few years, most of us. I mean, Jennifer is probably our most experienced player.
Definitely. Yeah.
She's our rule master.
There's got to be one.
Well,
Yes, there has.
so with that said,
That's
just like the D20, the current, let's introduce the crew. So I'll let you guys, start with Jerome and go on your way.
I'm Jerome. I'm the Dungeon Master.
I'm Timothy, and I'm Allie.
I'm Kara, and I play Nezarin.
I am Jennifer, and I am Ula Reed.
I'm Jared. I'm Jade.
And I'm Jody, and I play Lapis.
Awesome. So how did you all meet? Was it through the theater or some other avenues?
At the Pollard Theater in Guthrie, Oklahoma is where Jerome, Jared, and I work there, and then Kara and Jody has done shows there, and Jennifer met Jerome there, and that's how we met, was at the theater.
It all kind of started at the Pollard.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And so how long ago was that? Yeah.
Oof.
Timothy and I have known each other for, I don't know, longer than
Over
I can
20 years.
remember. 20 years or so. And then Jared has been with us for 10 or so.
And I think
Does that sound
10.
right?
Yeah, 9 or 10.
Yeah, I think I did my first show there 11 or 12 years ago.
I did my first show there. It was only like 6 years ago now. 6 years ago?
Yeah.
I'm like, anybody? I don't know.
Patsy Cline the first time. So.
Yeah.
And then Jennifer and I had mutual friends there, and she would see tons of shows there, and we actually got engaged on the Pollard stage.
We sure did.
Nice.
Cool.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
how does one get into theater?
They don't want to grow up. Yeah.
Your insanity.
You don't want to grow up, and you want to play pretend, and
You have no other skills.
Yeah, that's me.
I'm like, speak for yourself.
Doesn't seem too hard. Yeah.
So a bunch of theater geeks, they get together and play D&D. Tell us how all this came about and why a podcast.
It started with my birthday.
Yeah.
I mean, technically.
Really? Do tell.
I played for, almost all of my youth. I played 2E, 3E, 3.5, skipped 4, and started watching Critical Role. And Jerome says, I think I want to run a game for you. And so we all got together on the stage at the Pollard and played a game of Dungeons and Dragons. And I think everybody was hooked from the jump. I don't want to speak for all of you, but.
Oh, yeah. We were all hooked. Oh, no.
Well, you guys were talking about it. I had played when I was in high school too, and I had never. When they were just kind of like talking about after a show, and I was like, "What D&D?" I played like 3E, and so I was like, "I want in," and then I just kind of bothered my way in.
I feel so old when she says, "I played 3E when I was in school."
Yeah.
And I'm like, I played 3E when I was in my late 40s. My God, I'm old.
I think we're all in that boat.
The big question is, though, Jerome, what's it like having a wife that plays D&D? That's like the holy grail of
kidding,
nerd
dude.
culture.
You have no idea how
You
envious
bet.
we are.
Well, like I've heard you guys talking about, and I can't remember who was talking about it, but they were talking about the beer fairy showing up with the beer. And
Oh, that's my wife. Yeah.
Okay. And I was like, my wife would be in the space with me. She would be like, we painted minis together, and we kind of went through a phase where we were doing terrain together and all that kind of stuff. And she introduced me to the game. So I didn't know anything about it, but I knew she was obsessed with watching these guys play on Critical Role, and thought, okay, I'll hire a guy, and then we decided we would do a game together. Now, my wife is a really smart person, so I have to ask a lot. Please don't tell me every time I get a rule wrong.
It's the one time you can tell her she's not right.
No, that's not the way that works.
I'll give it a couple decades. It'll mellow out.
I always love when you guys have those moments because it's like mom and dad fighting or something, but you never like fight. But we're all like, everybody gets like stone quiet and just like,
What was it? The Sturges.
The Sturge.
The Sturge.
It's a Sturge.
I said
Sturge.
there's just one. It's a Sturge, and I could just see his face.
I heard it in his voice.
I just remember the hobble. We went on and on about the hobble, and
That wasn't Jerome though, was it? I said we hobble the horses, and everybody was fighting with me that meant that I cut their hooves off, and I'm like, I have read a whole lot of fantasy novels. I don't know what that means.
I was picturing James Caan in Misery.
It became a thing.
Yeah.
I never park my horse anymore. I'm like, I hobble it. I hobble it.
Yep. Oh, that's
but it's also cool because she lets me buy books, so I don't typically have to ask permission to buy a bunch of new books because I like you guys have that disease of I got to buy it right now.
Yeah.
Whether or not I'm using it or not.
And
So
for what it's worth, that
but it's
lasts
great.
forever. That disease, by the way, it lasts forever.
Yeah, no amount of medication's gonna control it.
Okay, which one of you has the largest collection of dice?
I was going to say the same thing, but I was going to call them math rocks.
Maybe
Jennifer.
I don't know. I've got a pretty
Crystal
bad
meth.
collection. Mine's about that big too, but you were the one that got me started. So.
Oh,
That's
is that
kinda
all?
small.
That's cute. You'll get there. Keep trying.
I got a tackle box full. Everybody thinks I'm an outdoorsman. I think it's funny. Yeah. I'm not going outside.
Despite the fact that he wears plaid all the time,
Yeah.
it's a facade.
Well, I think in the last, 10 years, Bill's and we have a weekly getaway, or did up until these times where we would go away, and Bill would bring a gumball machine and probably fill it about a quarter full of candy, and the rest were dice.
I put 2 pounds. Well, it's 2 pounds of dice, which actually fill about a third of the machine, and then another 8 pounds of gumballs and candy or M&Ms or whatever. And these guys will empty this twice.
Grown men
to get more dice, and then it's like watching them like they're Yu-Gi-Oh cards. I'll trade you 3 of the purple for that 1 blue. It's just until 2 in the morning. You hear the gumball machine crank, 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 crank. Bill, I need more quarters. I'm freaking sleeping. It's 2 in the morning, but I need quarters.
I've always been the person that everybody said was hard to buy for Christmas. So I used to get like a pair of fuzzy socks from everybody, and now I get dice from everybody. So just that alone has been like, I got like a little storage tub of ones that I haven't even touched yet. I'm like, those are nice dice. Thanks.
Get around to them.
It's good. They wear out, though. That's why you need extras, because then they start rolling low numbers and they break.
Yeah.
That's only for Scott.
Yeah, his start broken right out of the
Is that
package.
what's wrong with them?
He starts broken right out of the package.
We always have Jennifer bless our dice before we start. She
It
does a
works
little
so well.
says a little prayer. Yeah.
I think there was one
Not too
year
much
in our getaway where Scott didn't hit anything for
Nothing.
the whole campaign.
Nothing.
The entire campaign,
For the whole week we played.
never struck anything.
And we played from 8
Made a
a.m.
saving throw.
till midnight.
Till
those
midnight,
time,
8 a.m. till midnight, and we played for 4 days straight, and not a single time did he make a successful attack roll.
My dice suck.
Wow. I think I would have tossed those to the side.
He tossed many a dice.
I understand that.
Are you,
I understand
I feel
that
that
pain.
pain.
Furniture.
you guys banners of the? I mean, are you against the digital dice?
I am.
I was, but I recently played a game online, and my digital dice were doing pretty good by me. So I don't know.
That's because he couldn't touch them.
I couldn't touch them. So I don't.
See,
know.
I'm a I don't know. I have to tactily
Tactile.
have to have them in my hands, and I'm one of those people that can make any set of dice roll good for me. It drives my players nuts. It drives my game masters nuts. I've actually called dice. And it's like, oh, what do I need? Oh, you need a 64 on a percentile. Okay, here you go, 64. Roll 64.
Oh,
and they're like, no
Wow.
freaking way.
We try not to let him roll his own dice. We'll try to give him ours, and it doesn't work.
Nope.
They're just fixed dice, but otherwise it works every time.
Yeah, but yeah, they've actually taken all my dice away, and I reach over and grab theirs and go, oh, well, let's just grab yours. Oh, hey, what do you know? Another 20. And like, I hate him.
Is it something on the wrist you're doing there? Is there some sort of? What is that?
No idea. It has always worked for me. Always.
Wow.
I hate playing with him.
I'm terrible.
Yeah, just for a little background, they actually named his dice the Twins, and they actually called this table the Mamatorium.
Wow.
Yes.
Because he doesn't roll behind a screen; he rolls out in the open.
I am not a screener.
So it's always a valid roll, and everybody's like, "Just what that?"
I have 2 matching yellow dice, and I call them the Twins. And if I break them out, the table cringes. You can hear them cringe, and they're like, "No, not the Twins."
Which is
not
why
the
I don't
Twins."
sit at his table. I sit at Scott's table.
I've rolled double 20s numerous
Wow.
times, and they're like, I've crippled somebody by crushing their head in. I ripped arms off. Legs off, because critical hit is a critical hit. You can change your target, so instead of just killing them outright, rip an arm off.
Because that's better.
Yeah, but I don't want to kill the characters, but I will maim them to complete idiocy. But yeah, they'll take the Twins out and they'll hide them on me, and then I'll just grab their dice and do the same thing with their dice.
Rude.
Got some bad news, guys. Maybe the Arsenal.
So you guys are in good hands with
Our
Jerome.
new nicknames:
Yes.
Stumpy, Lumpy.
Bob.
So
Bob.
the D20 to curtain sounds more like a radio drama than a D&D game. This makes it really unique. Did you guys decide on the depth before you began the podcast, or did your game just happen that way?
I mean, I think we started our gameplay that way. That first day in the theater, that first game that we played together, we started with that idea, and because that's what we were interested in. That's the game that we like.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, it's also your skill set.
Right.
Yeah, because you guys are phenomenal storytellers. All of you are. Because even though the GM is the lead storyteller, all of you are partaking in the story and telling the story and developing the story, and you guys are phenomenal.
Thank you.
It's very engaging. I'll have to say that. Very, very, very engaging listening to the story, the way characters are portrayed. It's not your average D&D table,
but it's the way D&D should be played.
Yes.
Yeah. I think that a lot of people can do well by listening to a podcast like D20 to Curtain, because that's the essence of role playing. Like you're role playing. You're playing a role. It's what acting is. It's what a role playing game should sound like, should be, there's that the emotional highs. You get behind characters like you would in a TV show.
Mm-hmm.
I think a part for us is that when we tell a story, we want it to be a story that it, just like life, it has sadness and humor and aggression and issues. And if it's always perfect, it kind of takes it out, that it's, what's the goal if you don't have anything to really, conquer, I guess.
Relatability.
Yeah.
That's perfect.
It makes it real. It makes it feel real. It makes you feel invested too when you play it that way.
Yeah.
It's one of those things you can tell listening to you guys' show. I've heard it. You're not doing live play, but you're talking a lot about a game clearly that you play together. And I've heard you maybe mention, somebody got, their arm pulled off, and all of you instantly know, this guy, and you're talking about that guy, which means that moment was memorable for everybody at the table. So I'm always listening and going, yeah, I want to be at that table where 2 years later you still remember that day.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. It's like you said, it's all about memories and those memorable moments.
Yeah.
Like I got hooked, like really, really hooked, when Lapis fought the Raiders champion. And I was like,
Yeah,
I was like, holy shit. Are they going to kill her? No, don't do that.
Sweating. I was sweating and shaking, like physically shaking. Like this was actually happening to me. The way Jerome was telling it, I was going, oh my God, I'm going to die. I'm going to die. It was like that fight or flight, very real panic for me. It was terrifying.
We were all sweating.
That's
Yeah.
all. That's
scary.
good storytelling there.
Yes.
When it can do that, and bring immerse you into it like that.
Yeah, that was Jerome, and I knew the episode before when he had Langdodrosa say, "Send out your champion." I face palmed and went, "Oh God, I'm going to have to fight this guy, and I'm going to die. I'm never going to survive this."
One of the things is,
I think I was telling.
Go ahead.
Oh no! I was going to say I was talking to you guys about that at one point where I was saying when moments like that happen, those really epic moments, it feels unreal to be a part of it. You know,
Yeah.
We're obviously all invested and it resonates with all of us, but sometimes I just kind of take a step back and I'm like, how invested am I in this? This is affecting me physically right now. Like this is intense.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That's how you know you have
It's
a
really
really good DM and a good
definitely.
table. Yeah.
Not only that, I think because I feel that too when I'm listening to you guys on my wherever I'm driving to, and I'm like, and I'm just getting just as excited or anxious to see what happens next. I'm like, so I mean, you're not only investing in the characters, you got me invested into the. I'm like, God damn it, do this or do that.
Though it did start me on a tangent of where I tease Jerome every episode. He's trying to figure out how to kill me. And just hasn't succeeded yet. Every time he puts us into a battle, I'm like, this is the one where Jerome's going to kill me. Here's going to be the one.
You're like almost
Thank
Sean
Timmy.
Bean and everything.
Yes. Sean Bean is my spirit animal at this point.
How crazy was it that you see him? He shows up in Game of Thrones, and you're like, "Oh man!
Oh, he's going to die bad.
But he's going to
Made
die
it 45 minutes into that series.
painfully.
Yeah.
Painfully.
So this next question is for the players. What would you say is your most defining moment for your character?
Going back to that battle for Lapis, that battle with Langdodrosa, 180'd that character. And I think that I know that on one of the behind the curtains, Jerome posed the question to me of why did Lapis switch so much? In the early episodes, she was very take control and demanding and, very headstrong. And then in later episodes, we see her looking for guidance and looking to other people to lead. And I think a lot of it was because of that battle. It altered her, extremely altered her. I know it altered me personally, but it altered her. She lost her confidence. She lost a lot of her strength in herself.
Mortality sucks.
Yeah.
Yeah. And she did not have that experience of having that fear of loss of life prior to that.
That's great character growth.
Who wants to go next?
Yeah.
I was gonna say,
We should popcorn where now Jody just say a name. We popcorn. Yeah.
I'm gonna say a name. I'm gonna go Jared.
Oh yes. I guess one of the moments that impacted my character, and I guess in turn me, was there were the torture sequence where it was just Jade had this impression of his family, of course, been very close to his family for such a long period of time, and then suddenly he's thrust into a situation where he sees his siblings in a different light, and not just in a different light, but in a very terrifying situation, where someone is being tortured, and that has stuck with me, and I think as we continue to play, it's something that I still recall as I'm getting into character. I remember that moment and use that to kind of fuel my trajectory for the remainder of the episode.
Sorry about that.
Yeah. I always reference the kneecaps too. I'm always like, the kneecaps. It was the kneecaps that got me. You're just like, let's just move those suckers around a little bit. Yeah.
What can I say? If Ula hadn't stopped that, it was going to get a lot worse. I will say that. It was going to get a lot worse.
Well, yeah. Thank heavens she did. I'll popcorn straight over to Jennifer then.
Well, I'm going to share the same defining moment with you. Mine was definitely the torture scene, and for both as a player and as a character, because I like the structure of Dungeons and Dragons, and I like, knowing how it works and playing it well. And that was one of those moments where I learned that this isn't necessarily what the podcast is about. And so I kind of learned twofold. And then, as far as for Ula, the good and bad, the what's good and what's right has been back of mind from the jump. And that was the first kind of really bald example of those two things aren't the same thing. Well, Kara, I can see you.
Honestly, every episode I have a defining moment. Every episode I have a defining moment. I think because my character is a classic chaotic neutral, I'm always, I don't know, kind of every episode I feel like it's projecting the character forward and figuring herself out and figuring out her desires and figuring out what direction she's, planning for herself in life. And every time I play an episode, it's like kind of like a scar, I guess you'd say, but just another layer to growth and development. I mean, I just feel like I have a lot at this point where cracking eggs and running off to caves, it's different stuff. Timmy.
Well, that set us all off was, the death of Mama that brought us all back together and just made us sort of reevaluate our lives. But I think whenever I made the decision to return the gems or the gold reserves to Green Est, and it made me realize that Ali wants to be a better person, and so he has to start making those steps to become a better person for his family. So it's just making that decision and doing that. And then, of course, being pushed off a ladder and dying, but that's another thing.
You didn't die. You were just unconscious.
I guess I should say, though, for me, I guess a defining character moment is just the whole kidnapping scenario in general. Had a lot happen, and so.
Okay, and this next one is for Jerome. What's your GM style and or philosophy?
I think the best way I can articulate it, I would say, is I want to try to create a world where my players get to be heroes. And then I want to collaborate with them to create a living story that is worthy of the kind of heroes they want to be. You know what I mean? Like I want them to tell me, because sometimes they may want to be corny, kind of we rush in and do the, Dudley Do-Right kind of thing. But sometimes they want to be Firefly. They want to be, kind of anti-heroes and bad guys. And so whatever they're wanting to be, I want to make sure that world in the story is worthy of that story they want to tell. But in order to do that, it has to mean there are risks, that they can be hurt, that they can be maimed now. Thanks.
Thanks, guys.
And that way, when it's over, it's a story that would have been worth telling. Everything else is the mechanics.
Yeah. How did you end up the DM for the group? Did it just kind of start that way after you DM'd for the birthday game?
Kind of. Like I said, I originally wanted to hire a guy because I thought, that's going to be too complicated. I don't know anything about it. But part of that decision to DM and also the part of the decision to do the podcast kind of came at the same time, because I had grown up I was a teenager in the 80s. I knew people played Dungeons and Dragons, but I never felt like there was a place for me at the table. I don't know why that was. I just didn't. And then there was the Satanic Panic, and there was all that kind of craziness around it, and people were like, don't do it, it's the worst, and you'll go to hell, and all this kind of crazy stuff. And then, my wife is addicted to it, watching it. And I'm sitting here watching these voice actors play it and going, okay, so it's basically little theater scenes with these dice providing the what if. And so then you kind of go, this is maybe the coolest thing I've ever heard of. why hasn't anybody told me this was here? Because it gives adults a reason to play pretend. And we're told our whole life, don't do that. That's weird. That's nerdy. That's strange. Adults don't do that. And here you're literally giving each other permission. So I was all in at the idea of being a dungeon master. I'm a director, so it made sense. And then we thought, with all the people I knew who were saying, hey, I heard you guys have a game that you play every couple of weeks. And they were saying, I played with a bunch of people who knew how to do the stats, but I'd never played with actors. I wonder what that would be, how that would be different. And my thought was, it's exactly the same. We're still figuring out how to share the spotlight. We're still figuring out when too much scene is too much scene, when you need to jump in there and have a point of view, and when you need to back off and make sure you give this person support. It's all part of the process, and that's what makes the whole game awesome, is because while your characters are leveling up, I think you as players are leveling up.
Well put. Definitely. Well put. And you're right, because I've been playing nonstop for 50 years. Wow. And I've watched, including these two and myself, I've watched a lot of people develop over the decades I've been doing this. I've seen there are some of the people in our group that were 10, 11, 12 when I introduced them to the game. And now they're in their 40s. They still play avidly. Phenomenal players, phenomenal game masters, and it's fun to watch that kind of development. From just the kid going, all right, what is charisma again? And now they're like quoting the rules out of the book. Right. And one of them's like one of the biggest min-maxers I've ever seen, and he's got everything committed to memory. And all right, these stack. No, they don't. All right, I know the rules as well as you do, but nice try. Good going. But yeah, you're right. The players develop as well, and that enriches the characters and enriches the story.
It's very gratifying to see.
Yeah. Oh, very much so. Very much so.
Yeah. Well, it really is.
So you have a unique community-oriented model for your podcast. Tell us more about the guests you have in Harper's Tale One Shot.
Well, like the guest idea came from we wanted to introduce this to as many people as we could, because when I first started pursuing the idea of dungeon mastering, I went to our local game store. Shout out Game HQ, and I thought it's weird. I'm kind of embarrassed now, but I was kind of nervous about going in there and asking these guys to share their world, because it was like, this is ours, and you're new, but everybody was so generous, and everybody was so, oh, you don't need that. Just buy this or try this, or hey, look at this book. And I wanted. I was playing the game with my friends, and everybody was excited about it, and we'd play for 3 hours and talk about it for an hour and a half. And I was like, I want to share that with as many people as possible. People who have never played before, people who are, as my wife has informed me, grognards, who come to the table and bring their years of experience and share with me, again, new things that I can do. Oh, I can take their arms off. I absolutely could do that.
You're welcome.
Sense now. Oh, trust me, you'll be getting a gift basket.
I'll send you my email. Just, you got any questions? I'll tell you how to tear them apart and have them thank you afterwards.
It's like we're gonna need to name our appendages after them now. This is my arm. I call it Scott.
I never take limbs.
I'm the draconian one.
Yeah, I'm the social worker, as he puts it.
but yeah, we wanted to share that with as many people as possible, and theater people. We were shocked at how few theater people had ever played before, and how few players had ever played with theater people, and it felt like two separate communities. So we wanted to bring that together, and then the Harper's Tale thing just came because we found that extraordinary module that young girl had written when she was going through such a difficult time. Harper Corley and her dad, Matt Corley, put together this thing where they were working with friends of kids with cancer. And I thought, that's the coolest thing. And I wanted to play with kids because I wanted to see how it might be different. And I discovered they don't yet have it beaten into their heads that what they're doing is weird. They still think it's cool to pretend. And so they're instantly better at it. They're just fully engaged from moment one, and they sound like little adults, and you're like, you get to do your favorite thing, which is give them a scenario and then just sit and watch.
Cool.
And we'll be replaced in a couple of weeks with some minors.
When we come back for next season, you won't see us anymore.
Hi, I'm Nazarian. Like, wait, what?
Well, then there won't be any torture, so we don't want to do that.
Oh, that's true. They won't torture the way I do.
Plus, I think I could take kids' limbs off, and I want to try that. I'm looking forward to it now.
I've created a monster.
And
I'm glad.
Jerome will be like, remember that scene where you tortured that guy? I'm going to show you how that feels.
So, what do you see for the future for the D20 The Curtain?
Go ahead, Jared, Timmy.
Besides being replaced by children.
Do I have to say? Do you want me to say it? So you, obviously we want to get a giant blimp. That's kind of the plan. Something Hindenburg,
Like
maybe not filled with the same. What was that?
Shaped like
Timmy?
the Millennium Falcon.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like shaped like the Millennium Falcon. Yeah, that we're
With the VW van attached for Jerome to ride in.
Yeah,
on the ground.
But
And now I want to add one of those candy machines to the blimp.
T-shirt cannon.
Oh yeah, it has a
T-shirt cannon. Like we got it. I mean,
that as we fly over a city, we just shoot.
Qatar
t-shirts.
plays, and Qatar plays on a speak. So a sound system too.
it's got like an event center like built into it, so we can do like a traveling D&D show and then get people on board and have live events. It'd be really something.
I like it.
That's the dream.
I like
Your
it.
basic reachable goals.
Yeah.
Bill,
Start small, work your way up.
This is my table.
I've seen worse.
But also, more realistically, although I'm not saying no
Please
to the
don't
blimp.
dash my dream.
I'm not saying no to the blimp.
Okay, good.
What are we working for then?
But in addition to,
We like
Right.
getting better. We like making a better show. Every episode feels better. We learn more, and we hope that we are helping our listeners hear more, learn more, understand more, be better players. I think ultimately that's why we did the podcast in the first place, is to, we were learning how to be better players. Why not take some folks on the journey?
I mean, and yeah, build followers. We want to share what we're doing with others and, kind of spread the word that it's deep role play is not intimidating. Just because every time I meet people, new players, experienced players, that's one of the things that I hear the most when I listen to the podcast. They're like, I play with a group of guys. It's all statistics and rules. And I wish there was more of that. I want to feel like I'm in the Game of Thrones. And it's just like, just do it. Just don't be scared to do it. All you have to
Drag
do is
them
just
along.
do it. Yeah, make it happen.
With you.
Yeah, start saying stuff. Be like,
Just
I
growth.
feel in my emotions.
Growth. I want to happen with the show the same thing that's happened on this podcast interview today. I want to learn more.
Yeah.
I want to include a community that shares with us, that sends us notes and says, "Hey, did you know?" Or "I discovered this." The same way they do about, "Hey, there's a new book that's coming out today." I want them to say, "Here's information that I've gained over my 40 or however many years I've been playing," because I just started in my 40s, so I got a lot to catch up on.
And honestly, that's why we ask for reviews all the time and feedback. And it's not because we're just trying to get you, we're trying to get you involved. It's not like a marketing ploy. It's literally because we grow through their growth and their understanding and their information. And when people come to us and ask why, or, this could have been this way, or just anything, it helps us, make our game better.
Yeah.
agreed.
Well said.
And that's our episode with a cast of D20 The Curtain. You can find them on the web over at d20thecurtain.com. You can find their podcast over on Amazon Music, Apple Podcasts, Sam Podchaser. If you're heading over to Podchaser or Apple Podcasts to listen, leave a review. If those platforms aren't your scene, then head over to YouTube. D20 The Curtain is there too. Thanks again, guys, for joining us.
See you next
See you
time.
next time.
Dojo.
That's going to conclude this episode.
Dojo.
Thanks for tuning in and
We sound
listening.
like this
Please subscribe
reject
to the podcast
choir.
for more great content. If you'd like to hear a particular topic, you can reach us on Facebook at the Dungeon Masters Dojo, or you can drop us an email at thedungeonmastersdojo@gmail.com. Thank you, and have a good day.